Surprise video! So I've gotten a fair amount of requests these past couple of days for reviews to do on this channel, and this film is something that I really feel like I need to talk about. Not just because I want to tell you guys about it, but because my dad thought I should tell you guys about it. He said that this film was... oh my goodness, how did he put it? Required viewing and reviewing! Totally not a direct quote there. But nevertheless, I can see why he would say something like that. Thanks, Dad. Let's get started. Cape Fear was directed by the one and only Martin Scorsese, and it stars Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange, and Juliette Lewis. And this is actually a remake of the 1962 film of the same name, starring Gregory, Peck, Martin Balsam, and Robert Mitchum, who all have brief appearances in this version as well. And I would say that this film pretty much follows the same basic plot as the original. This is a psychological thriller about ex-con Max Cady, played here by Robert De Niro, who sets out on a path of vengeance against the defense attorney Sam Bowden, played in this version by Nick Nolte. Bowden was actually Cady's original defense attorney, and Bowden was mostly responsible for Cady being placed in prison for 14 years for a series of rapes that he had committed. And this film is 127 minutes of non-stop thrills as we see Max Cady play mind games aplenty with Bowden and his family, and he essentially makes their lives a living hell. So I'm just gonna come right out and say it to you guys, but this film is up. And I completely mean that in the best possible way. This is the God's honest truth, but the first time I ever saw this film at the time of filming this video here was yesterday. Yeah, I can't believe it took me this long either. And judging from my tone right now, I was completely shocked and blown away by this film. I think it's very, very close to a masterpiece. Man, guys. It just goes to show you, in case you needed any further proof, that Martin Scorsese is truly a master at what he does. I mean, what else can I really say about Martin Scorsese as a director that hasn't already been said? The guy's a fucking genius. Just how he works with his actors and the way he works with the camera and his technique, all of it put together just makes his film so invigorating to watch. And honestly, I feel like Cape Fear might be among his most investing. Cape Fear is a dark, messed up, non-stop thriller that had my eyes glued to the screen from scene one. Now keep in mind, this is coming from someone that has not seen the original from 1962. And I'd be lying if I said to you I wasn't interested in seeing it after this. What made this film so unique to me is the direction that Martin Scorsese went with his storytelling. It doesn't really feel like there's any heroes. Of course, you have Robert De Niro's humongous performance as a former prisoner, which I'll get to in a minute. But some people may counter by saying that Nick Nolte's character surely is the protagonist. And absolutely he was, no question. In terms of morals, absolutely. But the way Scorsese presented him was so unique. Sam Bowden has flaws. He definitely is a good man who wants to protect his family at all costs. But he cowardly backed out of a lucrative defense lawsuit because he noticed that his client was as messed up as he is. And his client correctly noticed that. As I mentioned, Martin Scorsese's direction is absolutely flawless in this film. But to complement that, I also gotta talk about the editing. To me, the way these scenes were shot made the film feel a lot faster than it actually was. Like I said, this film runs just shy over 2 hours, which I realized, granted, is not very long, especially considering Martin Scorsese's other films. But the editing was just so crisp, and it just made for a much faster paced movie, in my opinion. It didn't necessarily even feel like it was 2 hours. It felt like it was trimmed down by like a half hour. The direction and the editing put together made for such a thrilling journey, and I could not wait to find out what happened from scene to scene. I gotta talk about Robert De Niro though, guys, because this is, without a doubt, one of the best performances I've ever seen from him, if not the best performance of his entire career. And keep in mind, a lot of people saw Robert De Niro as a legend even before Cape Fear came out in 1991. This was the 7th collaboration that De Niro had with Scorsese after films like Goodfellas, Raging Bull, and Taxi Driver. All classics in their own right. But And this also includes the other 3 collaborations with Scorsese that would come after this film. I gotta say, I think this is De Niro's best performance in a Martin Scorsese film. And as I previously mentioned, it's probably, in my opinion, this might be his best performance ever. Now, the first thing I really have to commend about this performance is the commitment that Robert De Niro displayed here. I actually read somewhere online that before production for Cape Fear began, De Niro actually went into a dentist and he paid him $5,000 in order to grind his teeth down a little bit in order to make him look more menacing. Just unreal commitment, guys. Now, I don't know the whole story behind his tattoos, whether or not they were real, but I personally loved them. Once again, this was a very unique and compelling way for Scorsese to present this narrative and this character. You didn't even need to have Max Cady say one word of dialogue about himself. You could just take one look at his body art, and there's his whole backstory. De Niro as this character is so relentless on his path of revenge. There are so many scenes in this film. As a matter of fact, I think every scene that Robert De Niro is in they're scenes that I'm never going to forget. These scenes that I'm talking about are absolutely brutal, and they are downright horrifying, mostly. De Niro just disappears into this despicable human being. But to me, it's not necessarily those brutal scenes that make him such a compelling character, and him justifying his actions every time. The reason why this character to me was such a compelling villain and a compelling character overall was his intelligence. Honestly, how well-spoken and how well-versed De Niro was in this film was staggering. Those 14 years in prison were ones that this character did not put to waste. Max Cady was all about finding loopholes in the law, and he exploits them to get what he wants. And like I mentioned, he always justifies his actions every single time, no matter how despicable his actions may be. So clearly, interesting character stuff is the kind of stuff that I like. De Niro was truly mesmerizing in this film. I can't put over his performance enough. He actually was nominated for an Oscar, and well-deserved for this performance. If the Academy did not nominate him for whatever reason back then, I would have looked back on it as probably one of the biggest snubs of all time. But not to be overlooked is the equally amazing Nick Nolte. His character is such a good-natured, white-collar working man, and he will stop at nothing to protect his family at all costs. And I think Nick Nolte pulled that off really well. And I thought he was really great in not just the regular acting scenes, but in the action-packed climax as well. He was magnificent, especially towards the end of this film. Also, some very fantastic performances from Jessica Lange and Juliette Lewis. These were such easy characters to root for, especially with the crap they're dealing with here. I think both of them were very strong presences in this film, Lewis especially. Lewis also received an Oscar nomination for this role, and once again, I think it was very well deserved. I also have to bring up that this film brought us the final performance of Gregory Peck's legendary career. May he rest in peace. He was so phenomenal. Now, Peck's appearance in this film, albeit is very brief. He plays Max Cady's new lawyer, who basically goes in and puts out the restraining order against Nick Nolte's character. And he was once again an incredibly strong presence. Now, we also have Martin Balsam and Robert Mitchum appearing in this version, original actors from the 1962 version, and they too give phenomenal performances. No qualms from me on the acting. What an easy review. Thank you for tuning in. All jokes aside, there's one other thing that I would like to commend in this video, and that is the musical score for this film. So heart-pounding, the dun, 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 dun. Every time that music built up, every time that theme came in, absolute shivers down my spine. So obviously, I loved Cape Fear. It was such a mesmerizing piece. I can't exactly say it's perfect, though, unfortunately, because I did have a few minor nitpicks. Like, for instance, there are times where it's very strange. The color negatives just seem to change on the audience out of nowhere for no apparent reason. Now, granted, I feel like this might make more sense on a rewatch, but as a first-time watcher, it was kind of a confusing choice, in my opinion, and I didn't exactly get it 100%. Guys, this film is one of the best thrillers ever. It's one of the best remakes of all time, and I'm gonna give Cape Fear an A. Guys, I can't recommend this film enough. Please go check it out if you haven't already. I gotta warn you, though, this film is not for the squeamish. So, if you don't like f***ed up shit, this film probably isn't for you. However, if you guys are film buffs like I am, I cannot recommend this film enough. It is a heart-stopping thriller that just doesn't take any breaks, and it is a really captivating character study on both sides of the conflict, with really captivating performances and probably Robert De Niro's best performance of his entire career. Well guys, that's it for this review. Thank you so much to my dad for requesting me do this. It was a lot of fun to do. Let me know in the comments section down below what films you guys would like to see me review next. Also let me know, what did you guys think of Cape Fear? And also, have you guys seen both versions of it? And if so, which one did you like more? Also, feel free to check out all my other fun reviews on this channel. And also look out either later tonight or early tomorrow for my review of NXT TakeOver in your house. As you can see, I'm kind of all geared up for tonight anyway. So thanks so much to everybody for tuning into this video. If you like what you see, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can so you don't miss any of my future episodes. As always, you all are the best. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.